It's time for today's episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast, recorded in front of a slightly tipsy studio audience at world-famous Champy's Fried Chicken. We will have the latest on Georgia Bulldogs football, basketball, and recruiting. Watch live and send us your questions on the 11 Alive Sports page on Facebook. Be advised this podcast is off the record and not safe for work. Also, be sure to subscribe to the UGA Sports Live Podcast on iTunes and Google Play.
Hey everybody, welcome to the UGA Sports Live Podcast. My name is Rodney DeBulsey. I'm one of your hosts for the next hour or so. I'm joined by Jake Roos, the recruiting superstar at UGAsports.com, and of course, former Georgia head coach Jim Donnan, who will be answering your questions as you send them in. We're on the 11 Alive Facebook page. If you have a question, just type it in there. And after you type it in, go ahead and hit that share button. Share it with your friends. Show them what you're doing. Well, unless your boss.
Yeah, don't. Not if you're at work, maybe.
If you're at work and your boss has friended you, which I think is a bad idea, don't ever friend your boss on Facebook. They don't need to see what you're doing. But if you're not at work, go ahead and share it and let everybody know that to watch it, or you can watch it later. We have a lot to talk about this week. Quick shout out to our sponsors. Of course, we have Athens Ford. You need to swing out there, get your new vehicle. The new 2019s are in. Aaron Overhead Doors. Fantastic, especially when it's cold as it's going to be tonight. If you've got a leaky overhead door, you need to come in and get that taken care of. Europi, with their fantastic new ordering system where you can order at home or at work and then go by and pick it up and have it ready. Of course, Academia. No, stop here. Hang on a second. That IQ IPA.
You're not even an IPA guy, and so
I could drink this stuff all day long.
I mean,
I know you do.
But
I know you do. But I'm saying I'm not a big IPA guy. Of course, I love their Hunker Down Brown, but it doesn't have that sourness that somebody didn't clean out the tub thing that some of those IPAs have. You know, where the more sour, the better. This stuff is fantastic. Anyway, of course, Cable East, Robert Wall, thanks for being a big sponsor, and 365 Game Day. If you need your SEC championship gear, swing by 365 Game Day. Before we get into the show proper, I very seldom talk about UGA Sports. You know, it's not our normal, we don't give it a lot of discussion. We'll refer to a few things we've had on the site. But I got to tell you right now, if you go to UGAsports.com, if you're new, if you're not a subscriber and you sign up, all new annual subscribers can get a $99 gift card to the Rivals fan store where you can get Rivals polos, watches with the Georgia logo on it, phone cases. Thongs, underwear.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Really?
Shoes for men?
It depends. I mean, I guess you could wear it if you were.
Nowadays, Coach, nowadays they don't even designate men and women. That's how you identify, Coach. So we won't ask. But anyway, all the stuff, the jackets, the shirts, the hats, the luggage, there's 2,746 items in the Rival store for Georgia fans. You get $99 in free gear. A membership is $99. It's basically you can get a couple Christmas gifts or get some stuff for yourself and have a free year of UGAsports.com. So just go to UGAsports.com. It's on the front page. You can't miss it. Sign up, and we'll get to it. Speaking of can't miss.
Speaking about the year, I mean, look at the year it's getting ready to come for the next year. You need to have all the inside scoop on it because as good as this year has been and it's going to continue to be, next year is going to be, whew.
Yeah. Well, you said it last year when we started doing the show. You said, if you're going to get us early. And Georgia reeled off a 13-2 season, now a 11-1 season, before getting into the playoffs. So that's pretty good to begin with. But I agree with you. We talk a lot about the freshmen on the show, the sophomores. You look at how, 68% of the guys out there on the team are freshmen or sophomores or redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores. And you got to think that the schedule does get a little bit harder next year, but what Georgia has coming back, I mean, again, back-to-back SEC championship games. You had Auburn last year. You drubbed them. Now you got Alabama. I was going to say the sheer butt kicking you put on Georgia Tech. That was, we were talking about having a complete game.
Well, if you just look at the consummate record of our four biggest rivals, Tennessee, Auburn, not even mentioning South Carolina, but Florida and then Tech. I don't know what the score of all four of those combined is, but it's a pretty bad average for the other team and a good one for us. But to dominate them like that was just incredible. And then certainly we talked about the preparation that Georgia had last week for Tech and over the whole summer camp and fall camp. And Kirby did a good job of giving a shout-out to the scout team, but I thought they really did a good job of preparing our guys. And our offense did their role by keeping the ball away from them. And by the time Tech tried to get back in the game, they were so far behind that it was hard to execute much of anything. So it was just one of those games where you just take a lot of pride in your preparation, because that game was won Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of last week. Yeah. And then the execution on Saturday was outstanding.
I like Jake told me at the half, well, Georgia's up, 31-7 or something like that. He says, I'm waiting to see that fast-paced, high-octane Georgia Tech offense come out to try to catch up.
The quick strike. Yeah.
You know what happens?
And then they came out and drove the ball for – they had like a 9-minute drive. I'm like, you're killing yourselves.
You know what happens, though, that really has, I think, kind of put Georgia Tech on notice the last couple of years, the way Georgia has stifled them. And then when they do have to pass, their pass protection is so poor because they never do it except when they use it as a way to keep people off balance. But when it's a show pass, when you know everybody in the stadium knows you're going to throw, their protection breaks down so quickly. We were all over that guy. He couldn't raise his arm. And then our tackling in space was good. And then, Ledbetter had one of those games you always like to have, and it was good. The other thing that was great about it to me, though, was how many guys that didn't have to play many snaps and going to be a lot fresher this week, because I was worried about us being tired going into the game, as many reps as we ran all week. But, hey, we're going to be fresh as a daisy for this one.
Ronnie Brown here with a question about the Tech game. He says he compared it to playing some backyard ball. He says, how much do you think it benefited Georgia that they had some guys who had been around this for a long time and were familiar with that option attack? It looked like DeAndre Walker and Jonathan Ledbetter were kind of in their head, at least had a good idea where things were going to go before they went.
Well, somebody missed the show last week. He wasn't here, and I think he was on the road doing some kind of report. And we asked who we thought would be the player of the game for Georgia, and I said DeAndre Walker. And I'm not saying that because I got it right. I'm just saying because he's such a stalwart of our team. He works hard. He does what he's supposed to do. He's a difference maker out there, and some of the plays he made from the weak side where the ball went to the other side of the field, he just chased it down and they cut back. Not necessarily get tackle credit for it, but he was all over it. And then our run support guys, I think the ultimate predictor there, Roddy, said that he thought maybe McGee might play some because of his run support, and he was right. He played a lot more, and he did a good job supporting the run. And we've got Tyson Campbell and Stokes to play more of the pass, but I thought Tyreek came in there and did a good job. But overall, it was just, as Ronnie has attested to, it was a little bit of just challenge you from the standpoint, hey, go out there and execute. And the thing we didn't see that a lot of times you see in these games like that, Alabama against Citadel, were any place where it looked like we were out of position and they just got easy yards. They only got their longest run was 10 yards. You don't see that normally from a wishbone team. And that just goes back to the way our guys prepared. I want to give a shout-out to Tyson Summers, who was a Georgia Southern coach and is a analyst here. He did a good job with our scout team, showing them how to do stuff, but also talking to our team about things that give that kind of look trouble, and then also preparing our team with the scout team and all that, and then all the coaches, just offense, defense, everything. The only thing we had was that kickoff return, which kind of soured things because I'd like to see the shutout, but hey, you can't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Roddy didn't hear anything you just said because he was dragging those wings over.
I noticed you had wings with a straight arm quick pull.
Little buffalo sauce, little sweet heat over here, ranch, blue cheese. Those are homemade too, and the fries.
When you come in here, it's such a choice that if he ever had a buffet in this place, I probably wouldn't leave for 2 days and 14 nights.
Yeah.
Because you want to order, as my man over there is going to get the tamales first right out of the box.
Yes.
You're going to get the tenders, and you love those hush puppies. And I love the catfish. And then that doesn't even get to the fried chicken, which, hey.
That's what the place is famous for. I put it to you this way. every day when we come in here, we find out that Josh is catering a practice, catering a coach's meeting, catering for the team. The Georgia football team keeps requesting him to come back week after week.
There's
after
a
week.
reason.
Now
It's hard to please those big old boys.
I'm just saying, if it's good enough for Jake Fromm, Justin Fields, DeAndre Walker, DeAndre Baker.
If you can sate the hunger of Jordan Davis with it.
Well, now I'm wondering if they actually sate the hunger. I know he wants it, but then they got what's her name, Sydney, the nutritionist over there. I don't know if she lets him have as much as he wants because he looked fantastic, and I got a shot of him standing next to a SEC referee.
Ridiculous.
If you go check out the UGA Sports photo gallery of Georgia
His
versus Georgia
thigh
Tech.
is almost as big as the man. He's almost as serious.
Well, when you catch a fish and you hold it out towards the camera to make it look bigger, that referee is standing in front of Jordan by a good distance, and he still towers over that guy. And this is a normal human being. It's not like they had what do they call a small person out there, at the ref. He's a giant now, and before he was even enrolled, you met him at a practice. You called this early on.
And Channing Tindall.
And both of them are playing out. But I thought that Tech started to get a little success on that A gap. He came in, grabbed that center, threw him into one A gap, stood in the other, and that fullback dive disappeared.
Yeah, he's playing really heavy technique there, taking control of things. And I think the thing that I liked about him the first time I ever met him, he said, hey, Coach, I got some – after I told him I was a coach, he said, I got a long way to go, but I'm going to come in here and study and learn and lift weights and lose some weight. He said, hey, don't count me out. He said, I'm going to be ready that first year. I said, okay. And, of course, you just never know. But I always like it, to me as a recruiter, I like an outgoing kid that has confidence, not to the point that, telling you how good he is or anything, but just going to say, hey, I want to come to Georgia, I want to play with the best, and I want to be coached by the best. That's a philosophy they have. But getting back to the chicken, I'll kind of make this point. And the nutritionist, I was standing there beside Kirby one time, I think it was last year when they were getting ready for the Rose Bowl, and some recruit was on the sideline, and that lady was talking to him about nutrition, and Kirby said, yeah, we got a good situation, but I got to tell you this, we like fried chicken here too. Those kids don't want to be scared to death that they don't get some chicken.
Absolutely.
Now, ribs.
Well, I've seen the little video clips of Sydney when the kids come in and they make their they have a kitchen over there in the athletic association, and the guys come in and they can make their high protein diets. And I've seen the Sydney going, where's your green? Where's the green on that plate? Where's the broccoli? Where's the lettuce? Where's the spinach? Add something green to it. And we've mentioned her before. That team that we saw out there Saturday was head and shoulders in the Scott Sinclair in the weight room.
Yeah,
that is a team that has been rebuilt. They look fantastic on the hoof, and they played fantastic. And those guys aren't. How many years have we seen guys getting cramps on the sideline?
That damn Keith Marshall tweet at where he quote tweeted the guy and he said, y'all don't lift weights.
Yeah.
That if you haven't seen it, go check that out.
Yeah, I think somebody sent it to him. But
that cracked me up.
But here's the thing that I feel about player development and everything like that. And this is just not a love fest, but one of the things you could do Saturday is you could put our jerseys on them and their jerseys on us in warm-ups, and both teams are going to look pretty much the same. Now, they've got a few more players at certain positions than we do, and we've got some too. But, overall, you're talking about an eyeball test now. Yeah. You're going to look at two teams that none of these other 6 or 7 want to play. They know they're going to have to, but I would say – and Clemson, after watching their pass defense, I'm not near as worried about them as maybe I would be, but their defensive front something. But seriously, you don't want any – and it's such an unfair system from a standpoint. We beat Tech and we're 11-1. If we don't have a conference championship game, there's no way we're not in the top 4.
No question.
And, of course, we got to go on and do it, but – man, I tell you what, I'd like to be playing Northwestern. I'd like to be playing Memphis. These are some of the championship games. I'd like to be playing Utah. You just go around the country.
I think is Pitt in one?
Oh, Pitt and Clemson. And but
yeah, give me Pitt and a 21-point spread. Yeah.
But Pitt beat Clemson a couple years ago. But that's what the fallacy of this deal is.
Yeah.
And but for us to be in the top 4 with all the losses we had last year, from a graduation standpoint, it's just a monumental achievement. I just don't take that for granted. It's hard to win every game, but to win 11 games with our schedule and dominate like we have, hey.
And that was my point, too. I'll get to when I was talking about the way this team looks on the hoof, that in years past, and Jake's been with me on the sideline, we've gone into even Ole Miss when Georgia got clubbed during Kirby Smart's first year. It was just the difference between Georgia and a lot of these teams that they were supposedly had as much talent as was night and day. Georgia was smaller. You had smaller linemen. You had smaller defensive backs. I mean, there are a couple of years there to starting a 5'9" defensive back.
Well, that calls to mind, and I'll never forget it. That Alabama game, I believe it was the 15 season when they came to Athens. And I remember out there, you and I standing out there pregame. It was raining really hard that day. And I remember standing out there pregame and thinking, these are not comparable teams.
What I tell you right before the game, I said this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, guys.
People thought Georgia was going to win. I'm like, no, this is going to be an ass kicking.
Wishful thinking,
it was.
Hey, we got a lot of questions today, and we got to get to the point. But let's just all relish the fact that that was just a dominating season by Georgia. Now we're going into the next phase of it, and we'll see what happens. Regardless of what happens, we're going to have a major bowl. LSU losing pretty much cemented that no matter what happens to us. I would think probably Florida might.
Thank you, SEC refs.
Florida might end up getting in the Peach Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl now. But we could see Florida and LSU maybe getting in a New Year's Six game too, along with us and Alabama.
Especially after LSU got hosed.
Alan Verbanchik points out.
They did.
Alan Verbanchik points out that Georgia dropped a butt kicking on Georgia Tech without Roquan Smith, who played such a key role in that. Not only that, without Monty Rice, who is the proxy, the guy who's in line to replace him as much as that can be done. So without that guy in the middle, you got to be impressed with that performance.
Right, good point. And I think Roddy pointed out last week, he was talking about to watch out for those inside backers, how they played, talking about guys like 33, about Crowder, about
Crowder and Jawan
Taylor, and then Patrick. And they all did pretty good situation. But I think there weren't a lot of just complete standouts because Kirby's always talking about do your job, and I thought that was what was really saying. Our team did their job. Our offensive line blew their doors off. Our receivers beat their corners, and their safeties. Jake was right on the money with the ball, and our backs ran hard. And then defensively, we swarmed the football. We were around the ball with a lot of gang tackles, and we didn't get caught on any cutbacks. But I knew in my way of thinking about the way the ebb and flow of the game, you always worry about Tech, what they can do. When they called a pass down 7-0 and they had 2nd and 6, I'm saying to myself, these guys don't really think they can move the ball on us, because 2nd and 6 for a wishbone is like eating some Champy's chicken, man. You love that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And once they did that, and then they had the situation where they had the penalty, you got to get some help. 4th and 1. And then when they went for it on their end of the field down like they were, hey, that's pretty much a helpless situation there. Yeah. They knew they couldn't miss their turn again, and that happens.
Yeah, when it was 21-7, you could see the desperation kick in some of those play calls. And it was at that point that I thought Jonathan Ledbetter hit a different gear. Now, we mentioned Tate Crowder, and we've given Tate Crowder some grief because he has been in the right position numerous times but not made the tackle.
Oh, yeah.
He has missed a lot of tackles, but on Saturday, Tate was in the right spot, and he made those tackles, and it was a difference in the game. But
good.
I noticed when they were down 21-7, all of a sudden it was Ledbetter, Walker, Ledbetter. I mean, it's almost.
And Anderson made a great play too.
Yeah, at one point he was a leading tackler.
Yeah, I think he's one of the few guys that can stand up on the right end and reach over on the left end and stick his arm out and still get the ball.
Don't bring him to Champions and try to guard.
You talk about a guy that's got some long arms, and then But, hey, we got a lot to talk about.
He can
here.
jump, too, apparently.
Yeah, he's got a hell of a vertical.
If we were on TV now, we'd have a producer talking hey, let's cut to the chase. That game's over. Let's go to the next one.
Well, before we talk about Alabama.
Let's take a break and talk about our sponsors.
Let's take a momentary break for our sponsors here. I want to give a big
French fries.
Hand to Coach the fries there. I want to give a big shout-out to Athens Ford. They are our biggest sponsor. They take good care of us. They take they will take fantastic care of you. We've read you people who, people who've gone out there and talked to them and had a great experience out there. Well, they're also trying to give back to the community, and they have a thing going on right now at Athens Ford benefiting the Salvation Army. It's called the Athens Ford Angel List. So when you go out there and you buy a new vehicle or a used vehicle from them, any vehicle, they're going to give you a set of little wings, and you can write your name on it or you can keep it anonymous, and then you take your wings just like you do with like the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, the little balloons and things, and you take it and they have a bunch of gifts in the showroom. You put those your wings on that gift. That gift goes underneath their giant tree they have out there. That gift is going to a kid in the Athens community. This is they're partnered with the Salvation Army, and again, Athens Ford does charity stuff all the time. I mean, last year it was 100 bicycles. I mean, they had bicycles everywhere, so all these kids got bikes from them. This year they're doing something different where they have all these gifts. And, of course, you can put your name on it, or it can be anonymous if you don't want your name on it. It's up to you. But they are basically giving a $100 gift, to or it's going to be any sort of gift out there, to kids in the community. You put your name on it and give it away. It's fantastic. So if you get a chance, if you need a new vehicle, or you just want like say you want that new 2019, or you want to get a 2018 at a great deal, or you want a pre-owned vehicle like I did, your car or truck, SUV is going to come with a lifetime powertrain warranty.
And you get to do something nice for a kid.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
And and they kind of take care of the charity aspect of it for you. You know, so it's not like, I know you folks are doing that. Today's Giving Tuesday. I know a lot of you have already done that. Here's your chance to it's double dip. You get something nice for you and for a kid in the community that absolutely needs it. So big shout out to Athens Ford. Like I said, they do wonderful charity work, and that's probably not even what they want us to talk about. I'm sure they want us to talk about the deals on their cars and trucks and the thousands you can save. I'm going to tell you about the fact that they're doing something nice for the kids in Athens. Kids. And this isn't one of those, we're doing it for charity. This is something that we feel right here in the community because they are Athens Ford. It's not someone's last name Ford. It's not going to a family. It's going to the local community. So big shout out to them.
Absolutely. Now, as you mentioned, Coach, people are ready to turn the page away from Georgia Tech and focus on Saturday's matchup, the SEC Championship, 4 o'clock in the Benz. A lot of people with a lot of questions about it. First off, I guess let's dive in here. Ronnie Brown with another good one. He says, this coming weekend offensively, how do you see the UGA line holding up? Going against a really vaunted front seven, especially that defensive line, a couple of monsters up there. This is going to be the biggest test of the year for the Bulldogs in that regard. I think probably no question.
Well, we've proven against Auburn's line that we can block those big guys. I mean, certainly Quentin Williams presents a big challenge inside because he's such a big force the way he can run and separate. And, Danny Buggs got hurt. We don't know how much he's going to be able to play this week. But their front seven is a lot like ours. And one of the things that you get to do playing a team like Alabama is you get to practice against each other and simulate what you're going to do because they run a similar defense, a similar offense. So you can go good against good instead of the scout team some. So that'll be good. I think a real key issue there is running the ball effectively enough where we can throw the play action pass to work on their linebackers and work on their underneath coverage. They got some issues in the secondary with some new players playing. They lost a lot of guys to the pros last year, and we can pick on some guys. But the real key element to our offense, I think, is when we do throw the ball, making sure that Jay can be on his spot. Be able to throw in rhythm. When he throws in rhythm, gets his feet set, and really, anticipates a break, I mean, he's outstanding. He has trouble, just like all of us do, when he has to move off his spot and move around and not get his whole body into throws. I mean, he's got a good arm, but it's hard for him to throw the ball on the move like that. Just drill it in there. It's hard for a lot of us. So I say hoping that Jay can keep his spot, that'll be huge for us. And then we'll go on and answer the questions. So I just want to give you the whole game plan there before it starts.
I wanted to ask you mentioned Quentin Williams, and I was thinking about this yesterday. How much do you think having a guy like Jordan Davis for them to practice up against is able to replicate some of that?
Jordan give you the thickness, and he doesn't have the quickness at Quinn. But, there's a guy that wasn't that highly recruited. I mean, he was over there. You're the star guy and all that. But he was out of Birmingham, I think.
Yes, he was.
I think he had some grade issues. But, when you look at that guy, he's going to go from being really kind of pretty much an unknown going into this season based on last year to being a guy they're talking about being a top 5 pick. And there's a good example to me of what some of these guys that we bring in that maybe don't have quite the accolades coming out of high school that develop into being these guys. And, Jordan Davis will be one of those guys too. I mean, what was he? Was he a 4-star?
He was a 4-star, yeah. He was a
but I just think it's just – the one thing that's typical of Alabama is they're always going to have those big inside presence guys, and we're starting to recruit those guys. I saw where we got another signee this year. I mean, a commitment from that, Brinson?
Yeah, Warren Brinson, 2020 kid, 6'4", 290, about the same size as Quinnen Williams.
I love that. And then we got the kid that's the basketball player coming in the 19 class that's so good too, right, from down at – he plays basketball, and he just committed this summer. What's his name, Marshall? Or
you're blanking me here, Coach.
I'm looking at. I can see his face. I interviewed him at the track championship.
I messed you up because I said he played basketball.
Trayvon Walker.
Thank you.
Walker, yeah. Hey, so he's a stallion too. I mean, when a guy can be
a little too many of these.
When a guy can be recruited as a D1 basketball player and as a D lineman, come on.
No, absolutely.
So what we got next?
Brent Tucker wants to know: do you think that DeAndre Baker versus Jerry Jeudy is the matchup to watch on Saturday?
Well, among others, it will be because he's such a fantastic receiver, and he's fast. But they got several of them that can really smoke it. I think we're going to have to just play our coverages and not necessarily put DeAndre on that guy because there's going to be other guys that they can attack with us. But, people talking about Mississippi State doing a good job. Mississippi State pressured them and did movement. That's not our style. We're not this year. We're not a pressure package team that can do a lot of line slants and blitzes and all. We're just not that kind of team. Last year we could do it. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel and say, hey, Mississippi State did that. We're just not a team that can cover people man-to-man all over the field. I mean, Baker's great and all, but when you do all that, you give up a lot. So I look for us to mix up the rush a little bit, but also drop back and play coverage a lot like we did against Missouri. We confused Missouri. We confused Locke. And Tua, as good as he is, does every quarterback that in the history of the world hates an 8-man drop.
Yeah.
Where are you going to throw the ball? You're going to force them to run and do some things that they don't like to do. They can run the ball, but we're not going to run that as a predominant deal. But at least, that's what we did against Drew Brees in the second half. You got to make them hit it. Don't give them something by alignment by playing man-to-man and all. Hey, play some different zone coverages, play man under, 3 deep and all that. But I like to try to confuse him a little bit and try to make sure he's just not in the comfort zone.
Maurice Carter here with one about a guy we've been talking about a lot in this show, Jordan Davis. He says, what type of impact do you think he can have against Bama in stopping their run and pass?
Well, he'll have some impact, but, he's not going to be a guy that's going to line up and torpedo that center. They got a center that's up just like our guy, Gaillard. Their center's up for all conference, too. He's a good player. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's a long name. He's from up there in Iowa or something, but he's a good guy. But nothing wrong with Iowa, but Rickenbacker or something like that. But the point is, Davis can control the line of scrimmage, and the difference between their O-line and our O-line is they try to do a lot of stuff with them. They pull guys, they run counters, they run everything, and sometimes it gets them in trouble because they don't fill the gaps with blockbacks and techniques. And our team's complete zone area scheme. You see very little lost yardage plays on us. Hopefully, we'll get some linebacker run through, some ends off the edge, and some things when they're trying to do all those different kinds of runs that they use. Now, they got great backs like us, but I think their line is very good. I think our line's very good, but their system's different, and they try to do maybe a little bit more than I think they need to do with that line.
Piersbacher. Piersbacher.
Hey, that was close.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. Yeah. I couldn't have come up with that one off the cuff there. Let's see. We got another one from Brent Tucker here. He says, "Do you think that?" Wait, hold on. Let me draw it back up here.
Brent Tucker.
I lost Brent. Well, let's do it. We'll go with Zach Smith while I'm looking for Brent. He says, does anybody other than me think we will see a wrinkle in offense with Fromm and Fields on the field at the same time? I think it could work. I don't see them going that way.
They'll be out there in warm-ups. I really don't think.
I get what he's saying, but no.
But, it's a good change-up for some teams. But you can't have any wasted plays against Bama. I'm just telling you, we're going to have to score some points. If we play great on defense, we're going to have to score some points. So we'll score too. I mean, they got the challenge of stopping our offense. And, people talk about this is this is the best team we've played and all that. Hey, this is the best team they've played.
You stole my point.
Let's don't take away from our team. And I'm not giving us fool's goal or anything because it's going to be a challenge. I mean, we're going to have to play our game and get some situations where Tua's got a guy wide open and he misses him, or Tua's got a guy going across and he throws it underneath him, or they get a holding call. Or I tell you, a big key in this game is whoever's on the back end back there, defensive back wise, who's going to call, how many pass interferences they're going to call. Because we both play the same technique. And we'll just have to see what happens there. How much they're going to let them play. I watched that Oklahoma game last week against a really good team in West Virginia. They call a lot of pass interference calls out there, man.
I would like to actually see the Georgia players play the ball in the air. We saw Eric Stokes do that a little bit, but that hasn't been their MO a lot lately. I think that when you look at how many points Alabama was capable of scoring, I think Georgia's got to score 28-35. You're going to have 5 scores.
It's hard to project.
You can almost guarantee they're going to have 3 or 4.
Their closest score this year has been 21 points, right?
Yes.
Against Mississippi State. But who knows about that? It's hard to project everything. But whoever's calling the game, have they announced the referees yet?
Dave, do we know the referees? Not yet.
So we'll have to see how they let them. But what I always like to see in a championship game or a bowl game is the less you see of the refs and the less you hear of them, the better the game's going to be.
Yeah, but it's a big stage. They like to get that TV time.
I just like for them to let them play. Let them. Hey, don't call those little Mickey Mouse fouls. Let them play. There's going to be some. The thing I always talk to these refs about when we have these seminars is that, look, I know you do this for fun. They don't get paid a whole lot. They don't do it because they're getting paid. But hey, if you're going to come out there and call a game against my team, only thing I ask you to do is be in shape and be in position. You're going to miss some calls, but hey, don't miss it because you can't run with these guys or you're not where you're supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Maverick James says, I just hope Tyler Simmons stays on sides this time.
Well, he was on sides last time.
No, Brent Tucker, his question that I wanted to get to, he said, I feel that it's necessary for Georgia to play Channing Tindall and Adam Anderson because of their speed in this game and how elusive Tua is. Thoughts on that?
He's got a good point, and this is the thing that when I was doing 11 Live, I was asked about Tua and Fromm, and I said, look, they're both very accurate. We know Tua can run, but if Tua tucks and runs, it's a nightmare. He's like trying to catch Justin Fields.
Yeah, he is.
An absolute nightmare. So this was a question. I didn't know how to answer this part of it, but, Coach, do you put a spy on him? Do you keep a guy back just in case he does that?
One of the things you got to be aware of when you play against a team that has an agile running quarterback is, we like to play what we call man under 2 deep.
Right.
We play 2 deep zone where you've got your fifth of the field, you move it in, but we also 2 deep man where the 5 receivers are played man-to-man and have 2 safeties on the hash. But when you see look like the parting of the Red Sea, when you play that defense and a quarterback runs, there's nobody there if you break the line of scrimmage. So you got to be careful about playing that against a guy like Tua. And if you do, then you maybe put a dime guy in there and let him spy the guy. Instead of a linebacker, you got an extra guy in there to maybe stack behind the nose guard and play Tua man-to-man. But one thing we did against Missouri, which was good, is we played instead of 2 deep, 5 under man, we played 3 deep. which eliminated the middle of the field if the guy broke underneath.
Gotcha.
So we played 3 deep, 5 under man, and then rush 3, which, with his rhythm throws and his RPOs, they're very similar. We talk about RPOs now for the fans, run pass. They're very similar to us, and they will call a running play with a built-in route behind it, but very sophisticated. This kid can read defenses just like Jake, so they'll read your linebacker or they'll read your safety, and if the run doesn't look great, they'll throw the ball in behind those backers or behind their safety. So
I got you.
We're going to see from both teams, in my estimation, a lot of this and pull it and throw to hold those backers.
Yeah, but to his question, if you're going to bring somebody in like that to kind of spy him, the speed guy,
Yeah.
Tate Crowder's not exactly slow.
No, he's not.
But I like the coach's plan. If you're going to bring in a dime guy, bring in a secondary guy, because they can tackle. And to me, hey, I don't know, maybe Tariq McGee, because if I'm going to tackle Tua,
and you also got
that's a guy that could do it.
You also got Campbell now, who we've worked in some at safety last week, that can play that dime
Trent
position.
saw that.
Now,
I didn't see it.
And that's what I like. You get Stokes and Campbell on the field at the same time. Allow them. You don't lose any speed at the cornerback position, and then you have the guy who can kind of play back or forward. Either way, I think it's.
That's a good point, because you want to talk about speed. I mean, Tyson Campbell's probably the fastest kid on the team,
and he's going to be going against his high school teammate Patrick Surtain.
That's true. That's true.
He's done a tremendous job for them. But here's the thing that the fans need to watch too. The tight ends for our team and their team, 82 for them is really good.
Yes, he is.
And Nauta continues to make plays, and Warner when they get the chance to do it. But I'm telling you, in a game like this, those security blanket throws are critical to make first downs and keep the chains moving. Because, we got an advantage in the punting game and in the place kicking and all that, but the more you punt in a game like this, the lesser chance you're going to score much. So watch those tight ends, watch those fakes on the RPOs. And the other thing is we can probably do a little movement with Jake. I talked about him being on the spot, but actually roll out a little bit, get his feet set, so they just can't get rush lanes where they can tee off on you.
Alan Verbanachik says he's been predicting this throughout. He says Adam Anderson's going to get 2 sacks this weekend. There
That'd
you
be
go.
Great.
All right, mark it down for Alan.
And the thing about Tyndall, we talk about his speed, but he's also got to be able to run the nuances of the defense too. I mean, it's not just go out there and run until you see break the wall down or something. But I think one thing that we learned from the LSU game between then and now is cut back and don't have as many busts and let your athletes play. At least get beaten on a play because you get out skilled, not because you get out aligned.
Right. Speaking of making a good alignment, making good choices, not getting past your coverage, I want to tell you something about your pie. Now, we mention them each week about how you can order, stuff like that. It's the holiday season. You got holiday office parties. You got people coming over. Your pie also does catering. I don't know if y'all knew about this. You can have your pie come out, and actually I've seen them. It's really cool. They've actually have a little truck thing. I mean,
with the oven.
The oven that comes behind it. But if you go to Your Pie Catering, you can't miss it. I'm looking at the ratings. So they've had 1,500 ratings. They're basically 5 stars, 4.8. So a 100% on-time rating. It's unreal. And just to give you an idea, you can order delivery or takeout from these locations: California, Colorado, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia.
Damn, they're going hard in Virginia, too.
Yeah, I'm just saying they got places all over.
Shout out Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, California, Colorado. In other words, for those of you who are looking for a good business opportunity, a franchise in which you would send us one of those cool Pizza for Life coupons. I don't even know that those exist.
You're going to make someone create one, though. You're going to force them to do it.
I'm going to have to do it so much that Drew French has to be like, look people
man,
are asking about it.
Just give him the damn card so he'll shut up on the podcast.
Seriously, if you want a great pizza, if you're tired of turkey, swing by Your Pie, get the salad. They can get the salad. You can get the sandwich. You can get a pizza. And if you have an office Christmas party or you want to take care of your clients or something like that, you can use Your Pie Catering. It's a fantastic idea. And while we're in a commercial break, I'm going to jump onto air and overhead doors. It's supposed to be 25 degrees tonight in Georgia.
Oh, man.
If you have a broken garage door, call Aaron Overhead Doors. Think of like Aaron Murray, AAR, not Aaron White. is 2 A's. So Aaron Overhead Doors. Call them up. They will come out and fix your garage door. If the little buttons on your car that are supposed to make the garage door go up and down don't work, they can fix that. If your release, your garage door opener is not working right, they can fix it. If you just want it replaced, it's a big it's a big part of the front of your house, or the side of your house. They're ugly. A lot of them are ugly. The ones that Aaron Overhead Doors are cosmetic. They're beautiful. They have different styles. They have different glass things in them. There's not all that garbage sunburst pattern windows that we saw in the 70s. So you can make your house look fantastic, give it a lot more curb appeal by having them come out and replace the garage door. And again, if you walk into your garage and it's freezing cold, you're just making the rest of your house work 10 times as hard, your furnace and such. So get them to come out, fix your garage door. They will take care of you. Big shout out to Ryan Lucia for being a sponsor of our show. Big Georgia fan, and I guarantee you every time he saw Ledbetter take a guy down, he was jumping for joy because that guy's a huge Georgia fan. And again, everybody we're talking about, Drew French, Natalie French, Georgia graduates. The folks out of Athens Ford, all Georgia people out there. Aaron Overhead Doors, Georgia people. So
Academia,
oh man, yeah, graduates from there. We'll talk about them later in the show, but let's hit a couple questions.
A lot of people asking about injury situations, Monty Rice and Cade Mays specifically. Ellen Vermonachik says, is Monty truly out for the SEC championship? I'm going to say yes. I think he will not play this weekend, which is a big blow. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that one for you. Yeah. That's a guy that could help you out this week in a big way. Cade Mays, I think probably my guess is an emergency situation. He might be able to be thrown in, but I don't think they'll take the chance, give him a chance to get healthy, and go from there.
Well, the thing about Cade, Hill's come in and played so well that you got to be careful about trying to look for something that's not there as far as production, and Hill continues to do that, although Cade's played extremely well. This is going to be a physical game, and when you got an injury in your shoulder and upper body and you got to block it, that's going to be, there's a chance that might even get worse. So I don't know I don't have any information on it, but, we continue to watch Cleveland struggle because he had a broken leg and then he hurt his ankle, and it's hard to get any balance when you got that big a frame putting all that weight on both of your lower extremity. So I think overall, though, Baker looks like he's out all the way, but I think Salyer's really improving. He's not a center yet from a standpoint of snapping the ball, but he definitely can play guard and center when you're snapping it under center, and maybe not as good in the gun. He had some bad stuff there in that one game.
I'd love to see Kendall Baker be able to come back for this game, but we saw him on crutches. I believe he's had surgery, so I'm pretty sure he's done for the year. Well, done for his career. They announced him at senior day. Guy who is, I hate that for him because he has been absolute
damn good dog.
Damn good guy. He's jumped different size. He's done everything's ever been asked of him, and I hate that for him. But I'd love to Kendall Baker, a guy who played in that SEC and national championship game at that left guard spot. He could move over there. He could move Saul McKinley back to his old spot. So I know we talk about Mays being out and Cleveland being out, but losing Baker's just as bad because that's a guy who did it.
Right.
He went toe to toe with Alabama last year until to the.
But it shows you the extent of what Pittman's done recruiting-wise, and to be able to...
How is he not the assistant coach of the year? How is he not
it's a lot
Royals
of
Award winner?
There's a lot of political stuff involved in that, and I would say
that's
deep
garbage.
down... I would say deep down, there's probably some people there that didn't like the fact he left Arkansas.
I would believe it because I'm like...
Well, he got in the... he made the...
he was a semifinalist, not a finalist.
But some of these guys... get credit for doing stuff, but it's a very selective process, and just to be named one of those guys shows you. But I know why didn't Rodrigo become one of the three finalists? I've seen some of these selections before, and I think deep down, who knows why they end up like they are. But Sam's done a great job. All our staff's done. You got new guys coaching two positions for us. New special teams guy. He's done a good job with Coach Fountain, and then Coach Lanning's come in here and really.
Cortez Hankton's got his wide receivers popping up each week.
And then you got Hankton with different guy every week, and really done a great job. So Kirby mastermind as far as handling the personnel and
before you get to that question,
coaches.
You talk about replacing coaches. We're already seeing coaches getting fired all over the place. Schools are going to come after Mel Tucker. They're going to come after Del McGee. Jim Chaney, Sam Pittman. What do you foresee happening?
Well, I don't think any of these guys are going to leave for another assistant coaching job. I just don't see that happening. They've recruited too hard. They know what's ahead of you. They don't want somebody else to come in here and get the fruits of their labor. But I would say in Coach Tucker's place, in his situation, if he gets, he could interview for maybe Maryland or Colorado. I don't know where it would be, but he's certainly deserving of it. And the thing that I really feel good about for him, and I know Kirby understands it too, is Kirby as a defensive coach, even though he's the whole shebang, he coaches everybody and everything, he spends more time on defense, and that's where he made his name. So when you're the coordinator of a guy that has that as a background, sometimes it's a little more difficult because you're having to coach your team but also listen to your head coach, which that's part of the deal. And he's done a really good job of our team looks well coached because it is. Schumann, Scott, Lanning, all those guys do a great job. But I would say Tucker probably is the most up for being a head coach, maybe because of the success of our defense last couple. Of course, McGee, same way. He's got some ties in the Sun Belt. At this time, I don't know that any Sun Belt jobs are open except maybe Texas State, and they're saying Riley,
Kendall Briles.
Kendall Briles might be getting that, but you're going to lose coaches. If you got a good staff, and Kirby has alluded to that, he wants to help them, but selfishly you want to finish the deal here too.
You got I wanted to say too, your old buddy Mac Brown found his way back into the ranks. When are we going to hear the Jim Donnan gets back into the game?
You want Texas Tech coach? Come on.
Coach Brown I coached Mac Brown at Florida State. And I remember when I was in the hospital with him when he hurt his knee, and I tried to encourage him. But back then, a knee surgery was, over the top.
Oh, sure.
And I said, hey, Mac, hopefully you can come back and everything. And he came back a little bit, but he ended up being a graduate assistant there. And then I helped him get his first job with Bobby Collins, who was a coach with me at North Carolina. And so he started out at Southern Miss, and then, the rest is history. But I think Mac had a sour taste in his mouth after the way Texas ended up. And, he knows so many people back there. The high school coaches like him, and the alums I know like him. So we'll see. He's got to get some help, though. And the help he's got to get is not so much coaches as players, because look who you got to beat. You got to beat Clemson, NC State in your own backyard's really good. Wake Forest is going to their third straight bowl. Duke's doing well. So it's not like
see, and that's why I'm saying a guy like that, he's a new coach. He says, I need a new offensive coordinator. Hey, Dell McGee, we're backing up the Brinks truck. We're coming after you.
I think he'll probably go after Chizik to be his defensive coach, because Chizik coached with him at Texas, and he maybe talk about a coach in waiting there. I don't know that that'll happen, but certainly Dell McGee would be a good guy to get. But the thing I was talking about player-wise, though, when Mac took over that job in 89 or 88, the first year they were 1-10 or 1-9, and then the next year they only won 2 games the first 2 years, and then they went on a tear. But the biggest problem was that whole time was that Florida State was in their
the heydays.
They were really rolling there, so they never could beat Florida State. But he got them there right to the top of the mountain, that's for sure, and they hadn't been back there since. So,
the man can coach. We give him grief about his age, but age is just a number. You say the coach kicks our butt on the podcast.
He can recruit.
I'm starting officially on Twitter, Jim Donnan to Texas Tech.
Hey,
shut up. We need him here. I can't match what they can offer.
No, I'm going on the staff. I'm going on the recruiting staff.
Right now, I can't go out there where that wind blows out.
Oh, man.
Okay, a lot of people asking about recruiting. I want to know about some other guys we've spoken to recently. Big story up at UGASports.com. It is premium, but with that little offer we're running with
free $99
$99 in the gear. You can read all about Noah Kane's visit I spoke with his father, and we went real in depth. I was really impressed with how forthcoming he was, and
he told us everything.
Yeah, just kind of opened up. What was interesting, I thought, the big takeaway for me from that story was that there was sort of this perceived lull when John Emery had committed, and it looked like Kane and Georgia were just going their separate ways. He said that was never the case. We've always stayed in contact. This relationship's been in place for years, and that has Georgia in a really good spot. So going to be very interesting to follow that one. They're not going to announce anything until the 19th. So Noah Kane, definitely a guy to keep your eye on. Sounds like the official visit went fantastic. Had mom and dad in town. That was a big deal. But you got to go read that one over at UGASports.
Well, so where would he go if he wounn't go here?
I think that his other two options are Texas and Penn State. So he's got great options. He's going to land at a tremendous school. And the dad said, coaches everywhere have told him as much. You don't have somebody just dragging in this group. You've got great options across the board. So it's going to be interesting to see where Kane lands.
Well, he also seems to fit Coach Donnan's criteria, and we see this a lot. We talk to kids who, like you say, are confident in themselves, but not arrogant. They're not cocky. They know they have work ahead of them. They're outgoing, and that's what we've seen from a lot of the kids that Georgia's recruited lately. And we've also covered a few who are just jerks, and it's funny how their careers don't seem to pan out as well because they think they're better than they are, and then they think they're just going to be handed a starting role when they get there, and it takes them, if they don't ever get it, then they never play. But sometimes it takes them a year to adjust to realize, hey, I was great in high school, but everybody's great here.
Yeah.
So we got signing date for the early signings the 19th.
The 19th, yeah. Now, one to watch before that, got over last week. That's why I wasn't here. Clay Webb. December 10th, that'll be taking place at Oxford, Alabama. Rivals.com will be on the scene. Maybe me, maybe Chad. We haven't worked out all the specifics yet, but we'll definitely have it covered for you, full bore, no doubt. Spoke with him last week. Also, a pretty in-depth interview from him. Gave some great insight. Talked about really if it's going to be Georgia for Webb. I'll tell you who you owe credit to, and this won't be any surprise. It's Sam Pittman. Loves Sam Pittman. Family loves Sam Pittman. So would be a huge get for Georgia. Obviously, Clemson and Alabama and Auburn still pushing hard. Was just at the Iron Bowl this past weekend. And someone asked, do you think that Webb's decision or possibly Nakobe Dean's comes down to what happens in the SEC championship game? I don't. I really don't think that either of those guys will base that decision on what happens in one game. Those guys.
Can I mention something about that same?
Sure.
We see this all the time when people talk about, well, if this team loses this game, then that's going to hurt them with X recruit. We have seen teams go 2-9 and get a fantastic class. We've seen teams go 5-7 get fantastic classes. The idea
look at Arkansas. That's all I have to say. Go look at Arkansas's class rank. I believe they're a top 10 class. They went 2-9 on the year.
2-10.
2-10. Okay, there you go. I mean, it's absurd. They've pulled a couple of top 100 guys. They've got a couple 250 guys. It's a very stacked roster. And the thing is, kids look at a situation like that and say, "Man, I could go in there and play."
That's the point I'm trying to get across. So, if you miss out on a Clay Webb or something like that, is because it's like, I'm not saying this about Clay. I'm just saying anybody of that caliber. It's not that Georgia did something wrong. It may be just because they've recruited really well in the past. I mean, I remember there was his name was Geno Smith. There was a defensive back in the state of Georgia that was really
Geno
good.
Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Went
to Alabama.
Yeah. He was going to come to Georgia. And we knew it. We had it down cold. This kid's coming. I think we even had quotes from his commitment ready to drop. And then he changed his mind. And he said that's because Georgia picked up 5 DBs in the class before his. Now, none of them were, to me, on the level that he was. He's a pretty good kid. I remember, was that a St. Pius or something like that? I can't remember. Where's that?
I'm not sure.
But anyway, point being, he looked at that and said, no, you got too many. I'm going to go here to Alabama, which was absolutely loaded too. So, again, maybe that was wrong. But we see this sometimes when if you're able to get, a Kenny McIntosh and a Noah Kane after bringing in James Cook and Zamir White, those kids are very confident in their ability. They're not worried about the depth chart. Those are the kids you want. And, sometimes you get a kid who's like, in other words, I'm long-winded to saying this. Sometimes playing time is more important than your win-loss record.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you this.
You look at Jake came here knowing we had Eason, and Fields came here knowing we had Frump. I mean,
and Eason at the time.
Guys understand that they want to play for their state school, the one that's competing for championships, and you sell that to them. And hey, we'll finish strong here. What are we ranked right now?
Let's see. Let's double check that. I will say too, while I'm looking up the recruiting ranking, I do want to touch on that 2020 commit. Warren Brinson announced his commitment over the weekend on Saturday post game. Really like this kid. Really like this kid. Follow the visits. And so if you follow Warren's visits, you'll see he's never really taken any other than to Georgia. He camped at Georgia. He camped with Georgia at the end of the summer in July. Had a chance to work out with Trey Scott. They loved him, decided to offer, moved on it. He said, I was thinking about it before I even came to visit, and it just ended up working out. 4 commits in that 2020 class, 3 defensive linemen. He said that they're thinking of it more as an interior guy right now, but he's wanting to work on his speed and keep his size controlled. Would love to be a guy kind of crashing off the outside because of his long reach. He feels that he could contribute
that's great.
well.
The only thing I would say about a 2020 commitment, it's a long way between now and the next. I mean, it's a long way.
And we've had a few people that get annoyed when we'll report on that and they go, well, it's 2020. Here's the thing, though. More kids stick than flip.
Oh, I agree with that.
And
I'm glad. Where's that kid?
A lot of them flip.
Where's that kid from beside the IMG? Where is he from?
He's from Savannah Christian.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So he didn't go to IMG
good.
then. He's a Savannah Christian.
Yeah.
How's LSU doing for 2020?
Let's see. LSU.
But while you're looking at that, the point is when you see a kid commit and there's he's 2 years out, sometimes 3 years out, people go, well, it doesn't really matter because it's 2 years from now. Here's the thing. 2 years later, those kids are signed. Those kids are a part of your class, and you've covered it for 2 years.
It's like
there are more kids that stick with their commitment. Granted, we write about every kid that decommits.
Sure.
And it's big news. A decommitment is giant news. And if it becomes a perception issue, if you think about the kids that flip, you think that all kids flip. No, the vast majority of kids commit and stay committed.
And like I told you the other day, it happens quicker than you think. We were covering Clay Webb as a freshman at Rivals Camp. He was tearing it up then. Cannot believe the kid's a senior already. Same with Owen Papo. I met him when he was in 8th grade.
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Georgia right now, to your question, ranked number 7 overall in the team rankings.
With only 17 commits.
With 17 commits, that's true.
They count 20.
Yeah. So can definitely boost things up there. Pretty highly ranked here for 2020. We got to get Brinson in there on that, but currently 9 without him. LSU 2020 class, they got 6 commitments. They are ranked 5th right now in their 2020 class. So
we're like 5 and 6.
I heard they were really rolling in 2020.
They are. They're doing quite well. Some really good players. Cortland Ford is a guy I really like. Jacqueline Roy is a guy who picked up offers from everywhere. He's an in-state kid from Baton Rouge. He's not going anywhere. And then they've got a couple of good wide receivers committed as well. So LSU definitely making some headway there. But Georgia, like I said, what's interesting to me, 4 commits in 2020, 3 defensive linemen. They're going hard in that class, and it's a good idea because this is a loaded group in 2020.
And it's tough to find those kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Coach, you can attest to this. When everyone says, well, you need to recruit more offensive linemen, you need to recruit more defensive linemen, the average student in high school, the average student athlete is not 6'6", 310 pounds.
The average human being is nowhere near that.
Yeah. So you take the sheer number of them and say, I mean, these are rare apples to find, And so what happens? Everybody needs the exact same player. So, I mean, you can fight over quarterback, you can fight over running back, you can fight over DB. But for every, 6'1", 6 foot, 205 safety that you can find out there or cornerback, there's 10 more. But there are not 10 more 6'6", 305 left tackles who can move. I mean, there's some kids out there that are fat.
And think about it. And think about it, though, too. We talked about this. After that class where you had Michael Carter, Julian Rochester, Antoine Jackson, who ended up over at Auburn initially. Yeah. Tyler Clark came in that class. That was such a loaded group in the state. It's just not been as strong since then. You've had your Derek Browns and your Aubrey Solomons that have come through and been star players, certainly, but it's not been as deep of a talent pool. 2020, you got those guys. Nazir Stackhouse, Jamil Burrows, Brinson now. These are huge dudes who can get out there and move around. So I think it's I think it's a great one.
Great. But before we jump into talking about Georgia versus Alabama, again, remember we have a $99 in free gear deal at UGASports.com. Sign up for a new membership, $99. Get $99 worth of hats, jackets, shoes, thongs. They got everything, chess pieces. They even have they're not Legos. They call them building blocks, but it's like a helmet.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was pretty
neat. There's 2,700 different items at the UGA at the Rivals fan shop for Georgia fans. So you could get a year of UGA sports and then one of those very nice jackets that you could give to someone in the family for a Christmas gift. But if you're going to watch the game this Saturday, if you're not going to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I tell you, a great place to watch it is over with our friends at Academia. Come here by Champies too, but dude, slow down. So if you want to go by Academia, they have all the different beers you can imagine. Here's the thing. Every time I go out there, I take a picture of their beer list because it changes almost daily. They're putting new stuff out all the time. They don't have the laminated beer list because they have to print those suckers off each day. They have a wide range. From super dark imperial stout porters to sours. They cover the gamut. They do wild stuff out there. And what I like on game days, they have these 2 giant screens set up. They have reserved seating. If you're part of the UGA alumni group in Athens, so if you're here in Athens, because that's where Champions is. Academia is out by the mall. So if you're on the west side of town, swing by out there. You have reserved seating. These 2 giant screens. They're showing the whole thing. They have pint glasses. They have specials. That's one of the best places I've ever seen, the best setups, I should say, I've ever seen to watch a game. And, again, you're supporting Georgia folks.
And it's not like you're going to walk in and be like, can you turn on the Georgia game on this TV? No, it's dedicated watching.
Yeah, and not only that, they're playing if you come in 80s on XM, Sirius XM satellite, and you can't hear the game. They got it called.
Look, if you wanna watch the Big Ten championship, don't go to Academia. Yeah. go if you want to watch the SEC championship. Well, I'm just saying, it's going to be all Georgia all day out there. They're going to be going hard.
And the food, they have a chef out there. This isn't just your standard brew pub, where we got wings and tater tots. No, they have a chef out there who does amazing things. The guy is a genius with fish. Best scallops I've ever had in my life.
There you go.
And I've had them everywhere. I had them all around the world, actually. Best scallops I've ever had been in Athens, Georgia. Just give you a heads up. All right.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up. I guess we need to do some impact players. Who you think's going to step up in this one, Coach?
I think in a game like this, it's just be like flipping a coin on all the different things. But I'm going to just talk about 3 different players, one from each side of the ball and the kicking. I think Rodrigo is going to have a big day because you're not going to be able to score touchdowns every time. So he's going to have to be – it's just not a given he's going to make them. I hope he is, but I just think we just can't take it for granted. He needs to have a big day kicking off and also kicking field goals. That's the special teams. And then as far as defense is concerned, I just think the other guys in the secondary beside Baker are going to have to play some balls in the air better than they have been. They're going to attack away from Baker, no question. And then on offense, I just think our protection is going to be monumental. I think we can run the ball, but if Jay can set his feet, I think that's going to be a huge part of this game. So the offensive line, blocking for the run, and protecting the quarterback, that'd be my 3 issues here.
Roddy, who you got?
I'm a cheat.
Oh, great.
I'm going to go with Mecole Hardman.
Ah, okay.
Because he's done it once before, and if there's a kid over there who, I don't want to say believes himself, but a guy who is not scared at all of Alabama. This guy isn't scared of anything.
Sure.
He's the guy I let go in the basement because I don't like the spiders and snakes. Hey, Mecole, go take care of this. Kid is fearless, and he's playing at a very high level. We saw some of the troubles he had at the beginning of last year. Towards the end of the season, he was coming on strong. This year, he's been solid from start to finish. I think getting the ball to him in space, let Mecole do what he does, and I would not be surprised if he has a special team score.
Yeah.
That is a guy.
Who you got?
I'm going to go with a senior, I think that we saw it last year with Lorenzo Carter kind of stepping up in those big moments, obviously huge in the Rose Bowl. I'm going with DeAndre Walker. I think DeAndre's primed for a big day. I think that he's a kid who he's experienced, he's hungry. It's a big stage for him. He knows what this means for his future implications. It's a perfect storm for DeAndre Walker to get in there.
And last but not least, because you listen to this podcast every week and you're dedicated and all, I'm going to give you something inside that nobody's got right here.
Let me start a story.
Yesterday, just for these listeners here that have been so loyal to us, I called 2 SEC head coaches and 1 assistant coach of 3 teams and asked them to break this game down for me, how they thought it was going to be. I'm not going to tell you who they were. We can get it down to 14 teams. But all 3 of them said after the LSU game they wouldn't have given Georgia much of a chance based on what they saw in that game and based on what they'd seen with Alabama to that point. But since that game, the development of Georgia, and I mean, it was like a broken record. The development of Georgia's defense, their offense has gotten a lot more consistent. They feel like Georgia's certainly going to have to get some, play its A game, but they feel like Georgia's got a legitimate shot similar to one they had last year.
There you go.
I'll take that because I think
they wouldn't BS me.
No, I mean, they're talking to you as a friend. They're not. They're not on the radio.
But I
didn't
not tell them that I was going to tell them that I had this for this.
So you'll never get to talk to them again. But
hey, that's. No. I like that truthfulness in them that they felt
absolutely.
like we had a shot. And I would have said the same thing. I think our team has made drastic improvement. We still aren't as talented 1 through 44s in because our defense doesn't have as many stallions as they do, but we will next year.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, if anybody had looked at Georgia after that LSU game and the way Alabama was scoring 50 on everybody they faced, I guarantee you the line now is basically 2 touchdowns, the biggest we've ever seen in the SEC championship game. It'd have been fun.
No, I mean, it was more than that when Missouri played Auburn, wasn't it?
I don't know. I have to go back and look.
I thought they were way – but, hey, I don't want to disagree with you. You're too smart.
No, I'm saying to me and that I've seen.
My man Dave could look that up.
14 points is big. It's one of the biggest. Georgia's a severe underdog. But if I'd had to come up with a line on that game, say that was played after the LSU week, you'd have to think.
My big question for Tua is this: what happens if things aren't hunky-dory?
It's a great question. We saw what happened with Georgia when they saw adversity at LSU. They did not handle that adversity well. Tua has not been in that position yet. And the folks that are thinking he's injured, he's not. He's fine. Don't worry. That's not. Maybe he gets the flu. I mean, that would be. You hope he gets food poisoning.
Don't underestimate our boys.
Yeah, but to your point, as painful as the loss at LSU was, that showed Georgia what they needed to work on. That got the attention of some of the players. Some of the guys actually admitted to coming into that game a little overconfident. Again, and I don't say they weren't bought in before, but when you get beat like that, when you go to practice the next day and the coach says, I told you to do this, you did the opposite, here's what happened, now do it my way. Those kids did it their way, and all of a sudden you're just beating the pants off everybody else. So,
but the coaches took some responsibility, too, about getting them lined up. Hey, we got to get you lined up better.
All right, Lloyd Dixon says, and we'll wrap up on this one, that's all you want, a shot. As my dad used to say in poker, a chip in a chair. You got a chance.
And guess what? It's not the last game you're going to see him. I guarantee you see this exact same game next year.
Chris Brooks, I'll get this one in real quick. He says, do you guys think we keep Nolan Smith? I do.
Yes.
All right.
Definitely, with an LY.
Anyway, thanks so much, folks, for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday. Don't forget to go by UGASports.com and get the $99 in free gear. A lot of you watch the show are not subscribers to UGA Sports.
Give us a chance.
Yeah. Hey, we want a shot. We want the same thing Georgia wants. So thanks to Athens Ford, Aaron Overhead Doors, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Cable East, 365 Game Day, who also has a bunch of good gear over there. And, of course, 11 Alive and Champions for letting us be on their page and be in their restaurant. And we're going to go eat and drink beer. So we'll see you guys next week.
That's it for this episode of the UGA Sports Live Podcast. Tune in next week for more Georgia Bulldogs news and notes from Athens.